everyone. This is QuantumJoker and Victor, and we're going to review the three films the three Gamera films directed by Shusu Kaneko. I'm hoping you'll enjoy this. Now over to Victor. He'll provide you with an overview of the Gamera series.
Okay, to start with, Gamera is basically, or in its original conception, was a ripoff of Godzilla, more or less. He is a turtle that breathes fire and can fly by shooting fire out of his limb things. It was the little brother, lower budget of Godzilla films, but in the 90s it was remade in what was considered generally to be superior to the Godzilla films that were being made at the same time. And so we start with Gamera. What's the title of it?
Guardian of the Universe.
Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. So, Seth, what do you think?
It's been a little while since I've seen it, but from memory, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. The characters were well developed, fairly engaging, though the characters within Gamera 2 were I could identify with them more easily, and I found myself caring for them more so. But still, the personal drama in Gamera 1 focused around Asagi and her almost psychic relationship with Gamera was still very satisfying to watch. The effects had room for improvement, but I was still convinced. Say, Gamera 2 managed, miniature work, organic suits, and model cities with more realism. But it worked. It certainly worked well enough in Gamera 1. What do you think?
Yeah, Gamera 1 was very good. I thought there was, and see, it had a very good balance. Balance is what it really excelled at. I think it had just enough monster, just enough people. You didn't get bored and start realizing, oh, these are people in suits. You were able to enjoy both sides of it. The people were pretty nice. The dubbing was pretty good, actually, pretty spot on. I would switch between between the Japanese and the American just to see, or English just to see how that went. As for the effects, I do see what you're saying. I especially did not like the googly eyes on the smaller Gaius creatures.
They did seem very stiff to me, say, as they were preparing to slice through the bars of their cage. You noticed that, the Gaius were clearly puppets, who would essentially, flop open their mouths and just rasp. It really didn't look very good, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you did see some literal hand puppets going on there, but the overall effects were pretty good. And if you weren't looking too critically at it, that's the same with any of these kind of movies, I think. Also, the mix, I should point out, was pretty balanced of suitmation and computer animation. I thought the one thing that really got to me about these films, and this is coming from someone who was raised in the 90s, so I have a high tolerance for this. The shoehorned in environmental message, they spent 3 minutes talking about how we were destroying the chemicals and everything in the atmosphere. And I was like, oh, really? Can we get back on with the movie, please?
Although I suppose the film did satirize its own environmental message in that one cold bureaucrat is insisting to the Japanese parliament that they must protect the Gaius, owing to the fact that it's an endangered species. That is one aspect of environmentalism. To which one of the protagonists counters, Yeah, it was the guy, something like the bureaucrat remarks that the Gaios are maybe as endangered as the ibis, to which the protagonist counters, but ibis don't eat people.
Right, right. I
It,
and then he gets a phone call. At which point, my mind was immediately hoping that it was someone saying that the ibis were actually eating people. But,
that would have been fun.
just random thought.
Mm-hmm.
As for Legion, it's much more the same. Maybe a little bit too much people, too little monsters, or at least too concentrated. But I agree that the exploration of the symbiotic relationship between the kid Asagi and Gamera, and also Legion, is probably the most badass giant monster kaiju out there. I think he could give Godzilla a solid run for his money.
Sure.
The cut through anything whips and all that, and his smaller form that can just pretty much, gangbang any monster in the world.
Well,
It's a great design there.
sorry?
Oh, it's a great design there.
I agree. And, well, I suppose we will get to this in more detail, but I enjoyed Gamera 2, Assault of Legion, far more than Gamera 3, its successor for many reasons. For one, for its tone. Say, the Legion, in its various machinations and forms, inflicted more damage, more startling effects upon the people of Japan, and frankly was more frightening, more genuinely terrifying than either the Gauss of Gamera 1 or Iris of Gamera 3. There seemed to be a far greater mood of urgency within Gamera 2, and I appreciated that wholeheartedly. You saw nothing less than, the complete destruction of Sendai, whereas I couldn't invest myself in the dilemma of, that girl who merges with Iris in Gamera 3, as really all that was at stake was one person.
I have to agree. They, if I can use another terrible term popularized in America, they spent their load on Gamera 2 there. They definitely peaked at Gamera 2 and that monster, that conflict. Like you said, Gamera 3 much more. It's just much smaller in scale.
Yeah.